Welcome everybody, Cap here, Welsh Creative. Welcome back to our channel. Got a great video set up for you guys today. It's our first YouTube tutorial with some great content ahead of us. I've got an actual real life project that I'm going to work on today. Got a couple of logos to do on some face masks. So looking forward to showing you that progress and that process and how it works, and we'll go through the process step by step and how we go about processing the images and taking the project start to finish. So looking forward to this project. It's important that you like and subscribe to our this video and our channel, as it does support us in creating more content for you folks. As I talked about in our last video, with the unboxing of our flash unit, that we'd be doing this video for you. So without further ado, Cap, kick us off with that intro. All right, we're back. Thanks, Cap, for that intro. Appreciate it very much. So I use OBS, which is a platform for doing videos such as this, and I'm having a real issue with my background, and I have a whole thing set up where that way you don't have to see what's happening back here, but the quality is just garbage. So apologize for that. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and go over to my desktop here. Let me see if I can do this for you here. 1 second. Alright, so here's my desktop. Let's go over to Illustrator. And this is Illustrator here, and I wanted to show you. So this is two of the logos that I'm doing for a company. And it looks like it's a couple of different companies. They're out of Dana Point, and it looks like they have one's a catering company and one's a cake company. And so they've sent me over these images, and these aren't I didn't design these logos. These were client provided images. And so when a client provides images for you, you want to make sure that they're it's to some degree high resolution, and I'll tell you what I mean. So these are decent resolution. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to zoom in and kind of show you. This is a decent. I mean, this is okay. And so what we have to do with these images is we have to crisp them up a little bit, we have to what they call vectorize them, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But this is what was sent to me. Now, what I do want to show you is an image. So she provided me these two images. There was an image that she provided to me, and let me just open that up real quick so you guys can see the quality difference in what was sent to me the first time. Pardon me, these are just projects that I've been working on. This is one of them. So originally the client provided me this. Let me zoom out. This is something that you cannot, there's just absolutely no way you'd be able to vectorize this. Just absolutely no way. So ensure that if you're getting an image from a client, that you definitely get something that's definitely higher res than this. Res meaning resolution. So let me just close this out. So again, I'm using Adobe Illustrator. Not again, but I am using Adobe Illustrator. I'm using 2018 CC Creative Cloud. There's all sorts of affordable ways to get Adobe products via a monthly subscription. I have their entire suite of Adobe Products 2018. Anyway, so these are the images that we're working with. And again, as we can see, when we zoom in, we have these jagged edges. And whether we're printing vinyl or whether we're doing a transfer, which in this case we're doing a heat transfer, we want to make sure that these images are as crisp as possible. So I want to show you the final result of these images after we've vectorized these documents. So as you can see, they're nice and crisp. There's no jagged edges. Everything is nice and crisp. And so when I print this, you're going to get nice crisp edges on your print. So let me go back and show you what that looks like before you actually go and vectorize those documents. So see, as you can see, these jagged edges here, you can't have that, especially when you're doing vinyl decals. That's just not something you can have. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go back here to the logos that you provided, the client. And what you do is I have the image selected here, and you're going to go to Object, Image Trace, and you hit Make. Why isn't that working? Okay, there we go. My bad. I already had the image trace shortcut open. So if you hit preview here in the image trace section of Illustrator, you have some options here. And we know that the image itself has more than just black and white. There's a gray sort of background to it. So we're going to change that. We're going to change where the preset is. We're going to make it 3 colors. We know there's only 2 colors, which is the black and the gray. But we're going to change it to 3. And so now, as you can see, we have our gray here. The other thing that we're going to do is, right now, if I were to print this, I'd have a white background sort of around this image because there's a white background behind the logo and the image. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Ignore White, and that's going to do its thing. Alright, so if I hit Control plus, which is on a Mac would be Command plus, but if I Control plus, you can see how crisp those lines are in comparison to what we saw before when it was really pixelated or kind of jagged. So the next thing we have to do is we have to go to Object, Image Trace, and Expand. What that does is that creates these anchor points, which is great. That's what we want to do. That's what we want to see. Once we have all these anchor points, we want to click off of it, click onto it, and you want to Control G, which is to group them. So now if I move this image one way or the other, they're all one big group. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing with our friend up here, which is What a Dish. So we're going to hit Object, and we're going to hit Image Trace, and we're going to hit Make. Take that back again. We're going to go back to Image Trace, our little shortcut here, and hit Preview. We're going to go back up to preset. We're going to hit 3 colors, which is going to give us the gray background again. Let it do its thing. And there's our gray background again. Then we're going to hit ignore white to get rid of that white background that's behind it. Let it do its thing. Beautiful. All right. Let's control plus, which all that does is allow us to zoom in. Pretty good, not too bad. Again, this is going to be on a mask, okay? So, you know, on a mask, you're not going to really notice some of these imperfections because the image itself on the mask is going to be so small that you're not going to even notice it. But I wanted to show you the big difference you get when you vectorize an image. Anytime you are doing any sort of decal or especially text, when it comes to text or hard lines, that's the process you want to go when trying to take an image that's got those jagged edges that we saw before and make them a vector image. So I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Object, Image Trace, and Expand and make those all anchor points. And I'm going to click out and click back in, and I'm going to hit Control G or Command G on a Mac, which groups those items together. There we go. So now if I zoom back out, I got 2 great logos ready to go. And so now we're going to lay those out and get them ready for print. We'll be right back. All right, so we're at the printer station now, and we're going to print our films to start the transfer process. What I wanted to show you is what the transfer medium I'm using. I'm using a Forever. It's a transfer medium. The name of the company is called Forever, and I'll provide a link in the description of what that looks like or where you can get it. It's basically a 2-step process where you first you transfer the image onto a substrate, and then you do what's called a hot peel, where you peel it off, and then you would then transfer onto your document. So this is the company in which I use for my heat transfers, and this is a no weeding. Weeding meaning you don't have to remove the background of whatever it is you're transferring. And this particular item is for dark to light. So meaning if you have a white toner capable printer, that's what this is really used for. And so what I have here, let me show you. So this is an 11 by 17 inch film, and I'm going to print on the non-glossy side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this into 8.5 by 11 sheets, and I'll explain to you why I'm going to do that, because it's easier to peel a smaller sheet of paper versus a large sheet of paper. When you're trying to transfer images via heat, the less peel you have to do creates a better quality image, and I'll show you that when I actually do the peel. So that's the first step, is to get it printed on here, and I'm going to go through that process and I'll go to the next step. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and heat up my heat press and get that heated up, and I'll go over what I've found to be the best temps and the best the best heat times, just based on experience. Now, your press times will be different based on the press, and so in my experience, based on the press that I have here, these are the best times I've came up with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat up my press, And then what I'll do then is I'll go ahead and print out what we just created. I'll show you what those prints look like, and then we'll go from there. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change out the toner for my unit. So we're going to go over to my white toner here for my larger printer. I'm using a HP Color LaserJet CP5225. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the black toner from my unit here. And I'm going to pull out my white toner. Usually what happens is when you put the white toner in, your printer will go through a calibration which kind of cleans the drum up a little bit. And then when you do that, you want to make sure that you kind of cover things up so that way when you're in the middle of doing what you need to do, it's protected. I believe this is the right way. We'll slide that, we'll put that in the box for right now. And we'll close it up, keep it protected while you're printing your white toner. Right now what the printer is doing is calibrating and cleaning the drum of the white toner that you just installed. That way that when you print, you're ready to go. All right. So in a second, I'll go over and back to the printer and show you how we set that up. All right. So this is what the first printout looked like, which came out pretty good. I'm going to show you. I don't know if you can see that. You've got the gray, little pieces of gray here, and you've got the white toner, which replaced essentially the black that you saw on the screen. And so there are going to be some spots where you see a line through it. I don't know if you can see that on the camera or not, but that's basically where the wheels of the printer came through and marked up the surface side of the substrate or the film or whatever you want to call it. So as long as those little spots don't show up in the design, you're going to be okay. So I'm going to go ahead and print the remaining films, and then we're going to go ahead and press it while my press gets warm. And then we've got a printed section, piece rather, which is what I've already showed you. 8.5 by 11. White toner replacing the black. That gets placed face down in your press. And then what they call the B sheet of, again, I'll put this in the link of this, the description of that video. This is the B sheet. This gets placed below here. And I'll make sure I have the seconds right. .120 seconds on the pre-press. So I'm going to move this up to 120. times are going to matter or change based on the press that you use. But these have been the times that have worked for me. All right, so then we got the B sheet on top of the image. Normal parchment paper on the cover them. And then we, once the plate value is at 320, which you can see that, maybe you can't see that on the thing, but I can, so. And we press it for 120 seconds. So we're at 320 for 120 seconds. And then we're gonna do what's called a hot peel, which is basically while the unit is hot, we're gonna peel it from the B, which is the, move the camera up a little bit so you can see me. So once the time is up, we're gonna peel the B section, or the B portion of the forever transfer unit paper from the original print, and that should basically subtract the ink from the original print. That's the idea. And then once we press it on here, the press to actually press the images on the masks or whatever it is that we're printing. Hopefully that'll be again a different temperature, a different timing as far as how long it's actually pressed. But again, it's all trial and error based on your press and what you're using. So we got 40 seconds left here on the original press. If I can figure out how to speed up this process, I'll do so, but I'm new to the whole video upload situation and that kind of stuff, so forgive me. 20 seconds left. And so the kind of heat press I use, it should automatically open once the time is up. We got 10 seconds left. Five seconds left. And there we go. All right, so let's remove the parchment paper. And let's try and remove the paper from the, right. So here we remove the paper from the what we printed, and hopefully that does a trick. I want to pause the video and do the remaining sections. All right, so we're back. Excuse me. I had to take last night off. Had a long day at work. Had a long day at work today too, but I want to get this out there. So I've done the hot peel on all three sheets to get the 10 logos for each individual logo, 10 prints. So the next thing you want to do, show you, is you want to cut out each logo individually so that you don't get these white
lines on your garment you're transferring to. My only concern is these light details in the logo. Again, I didn't design the logo, but I'm not sure if they're going to come out on the garment. So I may have to do a test on a black t-shirt or something. If you look at the B sheet, which was the sheet that was on top, if you can see, the only thing that came out was the font, and none of the gray background part came out. So this piece here is what grabs the ink from the actual clear sheet and puts it on the garment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these out. I'm going to heat up my hat press, which I'm going to use for my masks, and then we'll get back to it. Okay, so as I suspected, the background, I just did a test and actually did a little too long. It takes the white away the longer you press it, so I'm going to have to press it for a little less. I had it pressed for 46 seconds. It depends on the kind of shirt that your garment, excuse me, that you're going to be actually pressing onto. So what I'm going to try and do is darken the color on that background a little bit so that it'll pick it up on the B paper, which is the this paper here. Otherwise it's not going to pick it up. So that color in the background, that gray image that's in the background, is just too light. So I'm going to try and darken that and do another test print and see if I can get it to be darker, so it'll actually show up on the garment. So I'm going to go ahead and darken that background a little bit and see if I can get it to show up, and give it another try. Okay, so just an update in this segment of the video. So I upped the gray on the background image, and because I'm using a LaserJet printer, as you saw earlier, I removed the black toner and added the white toner. When you remove the black toner, it removes the ability of you to be able to print any sort of gray tone. And as I lifted the gray tone, it basically created a white because I'm using white toner. So I kind of wanted to show you what we have here is, again, the test print. So as I lowered the temperature and the time, it did bring up that background, which is quite nice. However, it did create another white color because there's no gray. So because the printer thinks that it's printing black or gray or a shade of gray, it's going to lay down black toner or white toner. So back to the drawing board. I've reached out to the client and recommended some possibilities. Either A, we can change the font color, B, change the background color of that design that she provided, or we can just do just the font. So we'll see. This is part of the process when you're working with clients, and what I screwed up on is printing all 10 designs on film prior to doing the hot peel and realizing that the background wasn't showing up because of the color. So I did waste some sheets of HTV or heat transfer paper, but it's a cost of doing business, unfortunately. So you gotta pay money to make money, if that makes sense. So we're gonna wait for the client to respond. It is 10:20 my time. I've been in 12 hours at work. I'm gonna give it another 20 minutes or so and see. 12 hours of work at work, obviously not doing this, but it's been a long day for me as well. But this is how it works when you have a side business. I'm all about it, so no problem. I love doing what I do. I'm gonna give it a little more time, and then if she responds, I'll get something on a test print and see if she likes it, and then we'll move forward. Stay tuned. All right, so we're back. After some long back and forth with the client and the owner, we've come up with a solution. In the last segment, we were toying around with the coloring of the image in the background, and because I'm using a white toner, I can't use the gray, so I was going back and forth with the client as far as different color options. I chose a magenta, a cyan, and a yellow, and the owners of the company just don't like the color options. So what we ended up going with is just the text. You can see that or not. So that'll pop a lot better anyway. I've already done the hot peel on the big press with the A sheet and B sheet, which is the hot peel, which we talked about in the previous segment. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the designs as close to the text as I can. And the reason why we do that, I don't know if I talked about this before, but if I don't cut out the actual design itself, these lines and so forth will show up on the mask when I transfer it. So right now my hat press is heating right now to the right temperature based on the masks that I'm using. It's 266 as far as temperature, and I'm going to press it for 30 seconds, and that is going to be a cold peel, meaning it'll wait till it gets to room temperature before you actually peel the sheet away from the actual garment or whatever you're printing. So I'm going to get these cut out, and I'll be back. All right, so I've moved the camera a little closer to the hat press so you can kind of see what we're doing. So again, this is what our designs look like once you get them cut out. And again, you want to get them as close to the image as possible. You also want to make sure, kind of check out each design. I don't know if you can see that little speck there. You want to try and remove anything that's white if you can, either with your nail or an X-Acto knife. So you want to make sure you get a clean transfer. So I'm going to pause the camera. Actually, what I'll do is I'll see if I've got a cleaner one. See, this one doesn't have those specks, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and press this one. So the first thing I'm going to do is heat up your garment or whatever it is you're pressing the image onto for like 10 or 15 seconds to give it a nice hot temperature. That should be fine. So now what we're going to do is we're going to place this kind of where you want it. Might do is move this over a little bit so I can get closer to the edge of the mask, like so. And then what we're going to do is take our parchment here. And again, we're pressing it at 266 Fahrenheit, and then for 30 seconds. And then, like I said before, this is a what they call a cold peel. So once we remove the mask out of the press, we're going to let that cool down to room temperature, or almost cool to the touch. The key here is the temperature on your press will really affect, especially when you're printing on white toner. With white toner, it'll affect the color of the white. And also, I guess any colors that you do would fade it because it would get too hot and burn away. So I'm going to let this cool down, and then we'll do the peel, and we'll come back. All right, so we're over at our cutting table here. And when I took it off the press, it was warm, like I said, and I like this to take a cloth or something and kind of just rub the transfer into the fibers. I don't think it's necessary. I've seen different ways to do it. So what you're going to do is you're going to roll the transfer off, like just roll it off like that. The key here is with these kind of masks, they're double layered, so the top layer is separate. So you're going to want to have to, you see that or not? Yeah. So this is the tricky part, especially with these masks, the kind of material they're using. Gotta find a corner that's got some room to work with here. I'm going to work on this side and see what happens. I'm going to use my one finger to kind of roll it off here. Maybe I can start it. Let's see. It came off the T and the E. See that? As you saw in the previous segment, there were some issues with separating the vinyl or the transfer from the mask, and I'll take it off the tripod in a minute and show you, but you can tell how it cut off. These masks that were provided by the client were from Amazon, and so the material, and I'll show you in a minute, the material, really poor material, so it makes it hard sometimes for the transfer substrate to adhere to the fabric that it's going onto. And so, as you can see in a minute, the differences between mask to mask, when whoever mass produces these, it's inconsistent. So, which affects the heat that is required by the press to make sure that the transfer adheres properly. So if your client is providing garments to you, it's important that they understand that to provide more than needed in case something like this occurs. Well, that didn't happen here. The client provided me exactly 20 masks, and that's what they wanted. So I had to order them, which delayed the process of them getting the masks done. So I luckily was able to find the same masks on Amazon that they ordered, or close to the same masks. And if it were me, I would have ordered something a little bit different. And if it were me providing the mask, I would order, 3 or 4 more, 5 or 6 more than what is needed by the client, just in case something like this occurs. So keep that in mind. If you want to do something like this, you want to pursue this venture, you want to pursue something with printing or whatever, and you're having the client provide the garments, it's important that they provide more, and then you just give it back to them or reimburse them for whatever the difference is, just in case something like this occurs. So I'm going to take you off the tripod and show you the results. All right, so what I was talking about earlier is, if you look at the different, again, these were from the same lot. This one here, you can tell it's got the pigtail. The ones I purchased to replace the ones that were messed up were these here. So if you look at the different material, you look at this material and this material, completely different, which affects, again, like I said before, the required heat that my press needs, or a press needs, to make sure that this material, the substrate, the transfer, adheres properly. So you have 2 different kinds of material in the same lot of masks. I continue down the stack here. You can see this is pretty much the same, but this is the biggest one. I'll zoom in. That's a bunch of stuff. I escape with that. Yeah, it comes off. But you can see clearly that there's a difference in material, but it's the same mask.
So to sum it up, just make sure that you're buying it from a credible place or whatever the case is. Okay, so close this guy out. We wasted a lot of transfer, not a lot, but we went through some transfer, which again is the cost of doing business. But the biggest thing is the garments. You want to make sure that if you're being provided the garments, that you're making sure your client is aware that there's a possibility that there might be more required. So if the order is for 20, get 25, 30. If you're providing the garments, it's a different story. You know, you control that aspect of the business. So just make sure that that's something that you're looking at. You know, when you're pricing a job, you're doing a quote for a job, that's part of your aspect, what you're looking at when you're trying to bid a job for somebody. You know, if you're providing the masks yourself, you know the price points, you know the quality, you know what to expect when it comes to choosing your heat time, your press times, your heat, the actual temperature. So make sure you do that. Also, if the customer is providing the garment, you need to know what you're being provided. So keep that in mind when you're doing that. Other than that, that's all I've got. Thanks for going on this journey with me. I appreciate it. Make sure you like and subscribe to all my videos on my channel. Cap, take us out.